United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for all troops to be withdrawn from around Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. The plant is under Russian occupation and has come under repeated shelling. Guterres was speaking during talks with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the western Ukrainian city of Lviv. The leaders also discussed exchanging prisoners of war and increasing Ukrainian grain exports, millions of tons of which are still stuck in Black Sea ports. Guterres repeated his calls for a safe zone around Zaporizhzhia.
Military equipment and personnel should be withdrawn from the plant. Further deployment of forces or equipment to the site must be avoided. The area needs to be demilitarized. And we must tell it as it is. Any potential damage to Zaporizhzhia is suicide.
Well, our correspondent Matthias Böllinger is in Lviv and is covering these talks for us. Matthias, a lot of concerns, stark warnings there from Guterres. But have any steps been taken to protect the power plant there?
Well, what steps could be taken? The power plant is occupied by the Russians, so Ukraine cannot take any steps to ensure the safety. That is, if it's not Ukraine shelling the power plant, which the Russians are accusing Ukraine of, which would, of course, be something very dangerous. Ukraine, in its turn, is saying that Russia is shelling the power plant and that is preparing something there, some kind of an incident whatsoever. The intelligence that they have presented to support this claim is that Russia seemingly has told all the workers who are not on urgent shifts, who are not running the operations directly, not to come to work today. We don't have confirmation for that from the Russian side. The Russian side, in its turn, has accused Ukraine of staging a provocation or preparing a provocation today in that power plant. It's a very muddy situation, and what Ukrainians are saying is that, and have said in similar incidents, that when Russia accuses Ukraine of doing something, it's often, people here read it like an announcement of something that the Russians are preparing. So it's very, very difficult situation. What we know is from sources who have contacts into the town of Eneroda, where the power plant is, and into the power plant, is that the situation seems to be very chaotic inside the power plant, with ammunitions and weapons and military equipment stocked there and close to the reactors, or even inside some facilities, and the Russian soldiers putting pressure on the employees. So it's a very tense, it's a very dangerous situation.
Now, that plant in Zaporizhzhia was occupied by Russian forces back in March, but is still operated by Ukrainian staff. Matthias, we come back to you in a moment, but first, DW got to speak with an engineer who escaped the plant. Let's have a look.
Olga is worried. She has not been able to reach her colleagues for days. Until recently, the engineer worked at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Olga managed to escape. She tries to communicate with employees still on site, but it's becoming increasingly difficult.
I would say that 70% of my colleagues no longer show up for work. They're simply too afraid. You can imagine what that means for the ongoing operations and especially for security precautions on site.
Olga doesn't want to be recognized for fear of retaliation. Russian troops seized the nuclear plant in the first weeks of war. Since then, Ukraine says the Russians have been turning the facility into a military fortress. There have been several accidents and shelling of buildings on the premises. On one occasion, the emergency power system had to be activated.
They use the site to put pressure on the Ukrainian government, to blackmail them. The power plant is currently a big trump card in the war.
For the town's mayor, there is only one solution: a complete withdrawal of the Russians from the plant. We reach him by phone in his makeshift office in a neighboring town.
The occupiers are currently breaking all the rules that have been established for nuclear safety. They even fire multiple rocket launchers right from the grounds of the power plant. I hope they will find a solution on an international level to demilitarize the entire site.
Sometimes Olga receives cell phone videos from colleagues showing the dangerous situation around the power plant. Here, a bombed-out recreational center close to the facility. Memories of the Chernobyl disaster come to her mind.
I'm afraid that this could turn out to be 10 times worse. In Zaporizhzhia, we have 6 reactors and a storage facility for nuclear fuel. Compared to that, Chernobyl was a miniature version.
In the meantime, Olga has found a job in Kyiv, 400 kilometers away. In a nuclear emergency, she and her son would probably not be safe here either, she says. But in wartime, nowhere is completely safe.
Yeah, and Philip Scholz reporting there. Matthias Böllinger is still with us in Lviv. The situation at the Zaporizhzhia plant dominated the talks. But according to the Turkish side, the meeting was actually meant to be about finding peace. Was anything achieved there?
Well, that's what Erdogan is saying. He wants to start a peace process and he wants to be the mediator, the broker of this peace. This, of course, is something that has a lot to do with his personal ambitions. He has obtained a firm rejection from Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy pointing out that Russia is still shelling residential areas and civilian infrastructure with missiles, and that he cannot see any, or he does not have any trust that the Russian side would be anyhow interested in peace. That also is in line with what Russia has been saying so far. Although they have said that they would be ready for peace talks, they have also said that a peace would be on the condition that Ukraine basically surrenders. Ukraine, or Zelenskyy has said yesterday that he thinks the precondition for peace talks, for talks about how the two countries could coexist in the future, would be Russian troops leaving Ukraine, and that's not something that's going to happen anytime soon.
Matthias, Guterres' visit is not over yet, is it?
No, he's continuing to Odessa. This was another big topic, of course. Guterres and Erdogan have made a big had a big diplomatic success in brokering the grain deal that allows grain from Ukrainian ports to be shipped out via the Bosporus to ports all over the world. And the three have, of course, talked about that. They have agreed that they would undertake further diplomatic efforts to speed up the grain shipments. And this is probably more than, like, if we talk about further diplomatic options, then deals on specific issues like this one would be the more probable way than to start some kind of peace talks.
Matthias Böllinger there reporting from Lviv in Western Ukraine. Thank you, Matthias.